Hello everybody, my name is Jeff Heath. Welcome back to the Vintage Workshop. So this is part two. We're going to continue on with finishing up building the frame and panel wall cabinet, and let's get right at it. So we've got all our parts here that I showed cutting them all the size before. They're all the rough size. We're still going to tune them up, get them to proper size, but the very first thing I always like to do is get the center panels for any door made first, just in case there's any adjustments that need to be made. Then we can go ahead and adjust the overall size of the door. And go ahead, I've got this basically laid out the way I want it to look. I've got two nice cathedrals. This board was all one piece before, and basically what I've done is folded it over, so we've kind of got the cathedrals lined up and looking good with each other. Almost looks like a book match door, even though it isn't. And so now what we want to do is make sure we've got this center joint nice and tight for the glue up. And coming straight off the joiner, I always like to tune it up a little bit, and we're going to do that with a hand plane. So basically the best way to do that, so that you ensure yourself a nice flat panel, is to plane them both at the same time. So we just fold them up like a book, get the edges even, and clamp them up in the vise. Chair out of the way. And we don't need much because we're already straight. We just want to get those ripples from the joiner off. What I always like to do is just take a couple of swipes on the inner part. That kind of helps spring the joint, so that when you clamp it together, there's just an ever so slight gap running down the middle, and the clamping pressure will take care of that. There we go. Let's take a look at it. Yeah, now I don't know if you can see it in the camera, but there's just a very, very small little joint in the middle for springing it. It's probably, I don't know, 1/128th, 1/128th of an inch, something like that. I'm not going to measure it. It's just, that's what you want to do, so that the clamping pressure in the center also forces the clamping on the edges of the panel. It just makes the glue up go a lot better. Things don't start sliding around on you. So let's head over to the glue up station over there on the horses. I've got a panel laid out that I always use, and let's get this glued up. Alright, so let's get this panel glued up. Before I do that, I just want to cover just a couple of small tips for you. One of the biggest mistakes that beginning woodworkers make is they end up using all kinds of glue and it's squeezing out all over the place. All you got to do is wet the edge of the long grain of the boards, in this case, which is the two edges that are getting glued together. And if you've done your preparation correctly and you've jointed the boards correctly and they're a nice snug fit with a little gap in the middle, it's going to take minimal clamping pressure to hold them together. You don't need tons of glue. Enough to wet both edges is all you need. Now with these skinny panels, this is roughly about 5/8 of an inch right now, and it's going to get skinnier after this. It's hard to do it without getting a little bit of squeeze out, but try to keep it to a minimum. I like to do my glue ups on panels with my glue, and then also I take an acid brush and just take a big pair of scissors that I have in the shop. I've already done this one, but I usually remove half of the length of the bristles just so I don't have them all over the place and big and sloppy. Makes it a little stiffer and a little bit better for moving the glue around quickly, because as you guys all know, we don't have a lot of time when we're doing this. This is an easy one because it's one panel, but when you've got an entire glue up together to do, you want to move as quick as possible. So let's get this done. Brand new bottle. It's dry before it gets rock hard. 45 minutes to an hour from now. Alright, so that's that. Make sure you keep your orientation the same way you had originally figured it. Okay, so as you can see, I got the panel here. The glue's dry, got it, the glue scraped off, and I've already started the process of flattening it. So I'm going to get back to it. Probably going to speed up through this because there's a lot of work to do. Okay, next up, let's make the rails and stiles for the panel door. Alright, so now that we got all the stick cuts made on all four edges that are going to be facing the panel, next we got to do the end grain, and that's the cope cuts. So a good thing to remember to do is to always turn a little piece of scrap and run a long grain cope cut, and then what you can do is you can fit it inside the profile of the panel, and that is how you run it through the fence. Or through the router, excuse me, and by doing so you're protecting the end grain from blowing out, because anytime you're going to go across grain you're going to get blowout by ripping the long grain fibers of the board. Okay, let's cut the raised center panel to length. Yes, length. All right, the rough width of our panel after glue up was 19 1/4 inches. Our finish width is 19 inches. So what we want to do to keep it centered so that it doesn't look off, we want to take an 1/8 inch off each side. So we'll set the saw to 19 1/8 and get it done. Okay, so even though I want a flat panel profile on the front of the door, the panel is 5/8 of an inch thick. The grooves for the door on the rails and stiles are only 1/4 inch thick, so we definitely have to reduce the perimeter. So I'm going to use a panel raising bit, and because I don't want to have a raised panel look on the front side, I'm going to go ahead and just face that backwards, which is a very common way of having a nice thick panel for strength and also for looks and for sound, but not having it face forward. So let's get the dust collector and the router table on. I've already got the panel raiser set up in the router table, and we're going to get it done. Okay, so I'm applying finish to the panel now, and while I'm at it, I'm also going to apply finish to the cabinet. So what I'm using here is a gel stain. It's an espresso, really like a dark color. I've used this before. It's very good at making lighter colored woods look like dark walnut. So, and like I said before, I've got a ton of cherry, and that's why I use this, because I really wasn't going to use this for too many other projects, just because of how much sapwood and cracks and splits and stuff it had in it. Perfect for my shop, not necessarily what a lot of my customers are looking for. So we're just going to get at it and basically apply it liberally with the grain. You guys probably know a lot of this stuff, but you can see it goes on really dark, almost like a shoe polish. All right, I let about 10 minutes pass by and then wiped it off, and this is what I was left with. As you can see, it did a really nice job of darkening in the sapwood and the edges of this panel, as well as a streak running right down the middle. Both had a heavy strip of sapwood there, and this has done a nice job of evening up all the color to a nice walnutty brown. All right, the panel dried overnight, so we're ready to do the glue up inside the panels. As you can see, I've got it all set up here. Wanted to save time with the camera, so just basically got everything glue attached and got everything inside the clamps. Now, you know, one of the most important things you can do is make sure that you use a framing square to keep your door square as you're clamping it, because otherwise it's going to look pretty funny hanging on the cabinet out of square. I just wanted to show this really quick as a corrective measure. If you ever glue up a panel, especially the big long ones, and they're a little bit out of square, very quickly what you can do is have a longer clamp on hand, and whatever way it has creeped, and in this case mine had creeped just a little bit this way after I put the clamps on, about 3/16 of an inch, which is just too much. Take a long clamp corner to corner, put your square up on top of the frame, and very slowly and carefully just tighten down the clamp across the angle that needs to shorten, and just watch as your panel squeezes itself right back into square, and just leave the clamps on. Okay, while the frame and panel door for the cabinet is drying, I wanted to go ahead and get the molding started for the top of the cabinet. Up at the top of the cabinet, I'm going to put a crown molding on there, and I'm also going to put another piece underneath that to make it sort of like a two-piece molding. Let's go ahead. I've got a router bit that I like for the profile for the vertical piece that is going to end up being underneath the crown molding, set up in the router table, and I'm going to go ahead and run these two pieces, which I've already prepped to thickness and planed the flat sides to, and we're going to go ahead and run them through. Turn on the dust collector. Going to apply this with some finish nails with the finish done. The crown molding is going to go over the top of that, and you're never going to see them. Okay, the cabinet's done. Finally done. We've got all the moldings applied, and we have filled the nail holes with a waxy product that I use that is tinted to match the color of the stain. And I've got the door all glued up, ready to go. Everything's ready. So the last step we want to do is spray on a protective coating for it. This is a workshop environment. I want to protect it from dust and scratching and stuff like that. And I'm basically going to be putting on the same top coat finish on this that I do for most of my furniture projects. I spray a waterborne product that is real easy to clean up. Just cleans up with water, filling the gun back up with water and spraying it out. It's environmentally friendly, and it also has the wonderful ease of repair in the event that something does get scratched. You can just sand it down and recoat it, and it sprays real easy. You don't have to cut it right out of the can. You filter it and put it in your spray gun. I'll be spraying it with my HVLP spray gun. First coat's always a light coat. lock it down with some 400 grit paper. Okay, so what you're looking at is the hole drilled in the edge of the cabinet, and it's spaced the correct distance so that the hinge holds the door 1.25 inches away for the overlay and has it completely out to the edge of the cabinet. So these go in like so, and what's really important is that you just check it with a square and make sure that you hold it square. Otherwise, the door is going to just operate, kind of in a racking manner, and that's really not what we're looking for. So just kind of square it up there. And it's always good to pre-drill the hole with a VIX bit. A VIX bit is a self-centering little pilot hole bit that'll fit down in the recess of the hinge. It's kind of a preset depth. And what we want to do is, I never use a driver for installing these. These screws are number 4 or I think these are number 6, but they're real dainty, soft. So it's just best to put them in by hand. Okay, so we've got the cabinet hanging on the wall. It's covering the electrical box and pretty much doing what it's going to be doing from now on. I think the project turned out well. I'm happy with it. I was really looking for the contrast of the dark walnut color to go against the lighter colored walls. This is the theme that I'm going to be running with possibly a few variances, but very minimal around the shop, with a lot of cabinets that I need to build for storing a lot of stuff. You guys may or have not noticed, but in a lot of the background shots in the first 4 or 5 videos that I've made here, you guys are probably looking at a tremendous amount of clutter, and that's because after doing the walls for the shop, getting all this stuff installed, I still have yet to get things organized. I had most of this stuff hanging on stuff that was hanging on just the bare walls with insulation showing literally right up to the framing. So now it's time to build stuff that I want to look at for the rest of my life around here. So that's what we're going to continue to do, and I hope you guys stick around and watch for it. Really quickly, I'll show you. The cabinet door opens as it's supposed to, hangs on the hinges. We've got full access now to the electrical panel, which is what I was after. That's the reason why I hung the hinge on the left side. I still have access to the electric right here, because this is kind of like a workstation where I plug in chargers and other things. We still have access to the phone. I've got my pencil sharpener over here, so this is going to work out real nice for me. So that's a wrap for the project. Thanks for hanging in there and sticking along with 2 long episodes. In the future, I'm going to try to get these done a little quicker, but for now, this is what we've got accomplished, and we're going to carry on and keep right on working in the Vintage Workshop. Don't forget to please hit the like button, and also, if you like the channel and you want to see more, including the restorations that we've got coming up, as well as quite a bit of metalwork, then please hit the subscribe button, because there's going to be a lot more content coming. Also, I keep saying it, but I really do enjoy your guys' comments. So if you have some comments regarding this construction of this panel, the cabinet hanging on the wall here, or any of the construction techniques that you saw, I skipped over a lot of stuff. So if you guys have any questions, by all means, hit me up in the comments and I'll get back to you. I enjoy that every night, sitting down at the computer and going through that. So from the Vintage Workshop, my name's Jeff Heath. Thanks again for tuning in, and we'll see you real soon. Do you like to talk?